But you all don't have anything like ready made yet for that. So this would be helpful.
Yes.
Okay. Instead of cognitive.
Words.
Yeah, that would be great.
The vocabulary that we use for the next.
And the memoir is called.
It'll be on a different one.
Oh, it'll be on a different one.
That's just the one we're looking at. I'll give you like a success starter to
Yeah, let me
read.
pen so I can write this down. Yeah, I'm glad I came in there. I was about to come in there. They'd probably just be looking at me like this is way too advanced. Success starter. That means what? Is that like a?
It's like a question before you start the lesson.
Oh, okay. Okay. Do you have like? Do you want me to use like just a regular slide, or do you have a template that they're used to that I can?
I can put the success starter on my slides for that.
I can just make a copy, and so it's always kind of looks the same, you know. All right. So cognitive, and so if you just the day before, let me know where you ended, so I could do it like add a quick review before I go in the next day, you know. So spiral, read. So is that gonna be like? Is it gonna be an issue if I'm reading in English? I know a little bit of Spanish, but I'm not like.
No, I think it'll be good that they hear it in
Okay.
English, as long as they have something in front of them to follow along.
Yeah.
So like if we have the words, like a document like this, and then you could add what denotative and connotative is. For
the actual definition.
Yes. So
okay.
They know, and then we speak about it.
And lots of images, right? Probably is help.
Mm-hmm.
And then some type of like discussion time after reading at the end.
So, understanding.
And you all do like exit tickets or anything?
Yeah, it would be like checking for understanding. We actually have a document. Copy and send it to you.
Do you all use like one pagers where they like tell you two things they learn, a picture, write a sentence or something like that?
I'd say like write a sentence or something simple, not as much as a one pager.
Okay, even shorter than that.
Yes.
Modified.
Yeah.
Okay. And you'll share those?
Yeah.
All right, that works. And the memoir.
I'll share the.
Is it like?
We're gonna go over. It's either the censors or it's gonna be the price of freedom. I just need to look over.
And the first was called Censor?
The censors.
The Censors, okay.
But I'll send you all of
it. All right, that works. So in the classroom, when you all read the memoirs, they have a like they're following along on paper or
they're I print it out for them. They're following along. I give them English and Spanish copy, and they want to read. They'll read.
They'll read by
They'll
themselves.
read it
Oh,
out loud.
okay.
In Spanish, and then like the ones that are more advanced, I'll give them the English copy because I know they're able to comprehend more of it. Unless they need the Spanish or we speak about it in Spanish and they grasp the concept more. There's some things that we do as well.
So I could technically like find 5 words from the English version and have them like once we hit it,
Yes.
hit that word in the reading, they're highlighting or underline it, and then we'll discuss it. Or it might not even be 5; it could just be 3.
It's actually around like 5.
Oh, it's 5. They can get to 5.
3, 4, 5. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna send you the document.
That would be helpful. Okay. Yeah, I can do that. Okay. And then so like a lot of this seems to be created by YouTube, right? Yeah. So there's not as besides the YouTube, there's no strategies and materials provided by the district besides
the only thing we're obligated to use is those 2 computer programs, 2 days.
Yeah.
So 2 days each. But the majority, like when I started, they were like, do what you think is right.
Do you all wish it's opposite, or do you like doing that extra?
I mean, it's good to have the autonomy because you get to change. We're not as restricted when it comes to like everybody else has to be teaching this way and you can't change it up very much.
Yeah.
And we can do that. Like we're able to do that and be like, okay, my kids need this. I need to go back. Because at first, a lot of the stuff was that higher level stuff. And I'm like, okay, but my kids aren't getting it. They don't get the basics of it. So I made a point of going like, you know what? No, I'm going to start at the foundation and build up the foundation and move it up.
That was 2 years ago, or when you started that?
3
years ago. Okay.
Well, no, when I started doing the foundations, the first year was like, they just said like, do whatever. And that's when we were together and we're like, and we pretty much like a lot of it was more like cultural, gaining, like they're like, it was more talking and presenting. It was more like getting them used to life here. And then last year I was like, okay, no, that's not working. So I changed it up to getting the foundations, and it was like, okay, we're going to start talking about what these mean and what this is, and a little bit more writing and implementing these rules and stuff like that. So it wasn't like overnight, but I found that this is like how like they're more engaged when they're actually learning something rather than, I mean, they do their computer program, they're doing it.
They do it reluctantly.
They do it reluctantly. They really do. But they do it because they know they have to. And then occasionally they'll be like, hey, you just taught us this. And I was like, okay, good, now use it. So.
Apply. Okay.
Yeah.
So applying what is taught.
Yeah. And that's how they say
is like, is pretty simple. Like for them to try to apply it, like they're not like scared to.
No, and that helps that they're in a classroom where it's nothing but our kids.
Yeah. And
they don't feel as intimidated. But a lot of them are still like, they'll do it. They're not. That is something I've noticed that recently in the years, it's not as stigmatized, I guess. They're not bullied for not speaking English. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more kids are accepting, and they're like, if they know they've been here for multiple years, they'll be like, oh, I speak Spanish too, and they'll try to like talk to them or befriend them.
I would say that's probably accurate because besides ESO 1 and 2, they're in SF classes.
Not SF, LP.
LP, sorry. Yeah. For SF the rest. Fed. Yeah.
Yeah.
For the rest.
Yes.
Of their classes. Okay. So, like, my other question how do you two like coordinate or help the other teachers? You know, like in LP classes or just
They have my assistants. We have 4 assistants that go into these courses, and they help the kids with either translation or like small group reteach of whatever it is that they're covering. They go in there, and the majority of the time they're there for at least 3 days, 2 to 3 days, based on what kind of like course it is. And then we do the tutoring in the afternoons for the kids. Sometimes even like I have an open schedule, I'll go into, like, if a teacher's not an LP3 course or not an LP course, but the kid's struggling in there, I'll go in there and I'll like teach the kid, or I'll like walk them through it, and they seem to get it pretty fast. We offer the ESL huddles for them.
yeah.
To do. But again, like a lot, the ones that mainly ask for the help don't attend. So it's kind of like.
So you're saying the teachers that ask for the help don't go to the ESL huddles.
But they want us to be in there 24/7. It's like, no, dude, like you're ESL certified. That's the whole point. Like you're ESL certified, you use the strategies. But they're like, well, no, that's too much of an issue. And it's like, for SPED, they know that they're obligated to be using these accommodations, but for the ESL kids, they are too. It's also a legal thing. They have to be providing accommodations. They have to be doing the things to demonstrate that they're actually making an effort, but they don't do it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've seen through observation.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, I'm gonna try to always bring awareness to it, like, because when I go meet with Ms. Gomez, these are things
and they don't, and it's not like, I mean, they're quick to be like, oh, well, I don't speak Spanish, and it's like, that's the whole point. Like, you don't have to speak Spanish if you're using the strategies. None of the strategies say translate. We do translation for our beginners. We do translation for our beginners because we feel like that's going to be the best for them, but that's not what you're supposed to be doing for like the other ones, like the ones that have been here for longer than 2 years, 3 years.
That's interesting. I never thought about that. Like, none of the strategies say translate, but all the teachers think that's the number one strategy
because it's the easiest one, and they don't want to make that effort. They don't want to be able to. They don't want to have to do the sentence starters or encouraging the talking and the.
But don't they have to do it for like certain SPED accommodations?
Yes.
So why wouldn't you just transfer it to?
You're preaching, Gillespie. You're preaching.
It's
a lot of the same things that apply to them apply to our kids.
It's already been done. It's a disadvantage to.
I know.
Okay.
But they refuse to because they're like, well, they don't need all the help. They know. I'm like, yeah. They also expect my kids to submit the same quality of work as all the other kids. But all the other kids are getting direct instruction. My kids are just getting a translated version without the instruction.
And not one-on-one, very little one-on-one.
Very little. And they don't do the small group with them because they won't understand.
Really?
Then they'll avoid our kids. Mm-hmm. Like the majority of them are the ones that have been here for a longer time. The older ESL English teachers that have been here for the longest time, they're the first ones to be like, oh, I need you to move them on my, I can't work with them. And it's like, you don't get a say on whether you work with them or not. You're certified. You do your job.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that answers a lot more than, I mean, I had assumed, but yes.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so.
But then they also know how rude I am too. Well, not rude, but they know how I am about, like, I know my stuff, and they refuse to come to me and ask me these things. They go to them.
Really? So they're like a go around.
Yeah, they try to, but they know, like, their response is always like, talk to Barrientos, that's what it is. And my response is going to be, have you gone to the ESL huddles? Have you done this?
And the ESL huddles are twice a month?
Once a month, every the last Friday of the month, except for like December and November, because those are going to be the holidays and we don't want to be here.
And participation?
It's voluntary.
No, but like, if you had to assume, how has it been over, like, since you first started those huddles?
it's the same people that go, and usually
There's no one new.
There's no new people, but then they know their strategies, but then they won't implement them, and it's like, okay, and they'll be like, well, I need you to contact the parent for them. I have over 400 kids. I can't be contacting all of these. Like a lot of the times they have issues with the kids, and it's a classroom management thing. It's not a language thing. And
they put it on language.
Yeah, they put it on language when it's a classroom management thing. And I'm like, okay. I'll walk in there and they're like, well, the kids aren't participating. But I walk in there and 5 kids are on their phone, ignoring, they're like doing this. And it's like, I walk in there, the kids are like, oh yeah, and they're working. It's a classroom management thing. It isn't a language barrier thing.
There's definitely a disconnect.
Very much so. And they automatically assume, well, it's because they don't listen. It's like, what are they going to listen to? What effort are you making for them to be a part of the classroom? You're not making an effort for them to be a part of your classroom. Why should they? They're still kids.
See, that's what I got frustrated with, because you look at like the data and there's like slow growth, and it could be an easy thing to be fixed. I asked Ms. Gomez like next year for new teachers that they have to go to like something like ESL huddles. You know, like it would behoove them to not.
And that's what they don't understand is these numbers are growing ridiculously fast.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I'm like, we started at a little bit less than 300 3 years ago when I started, and now we're what, past 400, approaching 5.
And next year.
Yeah, it's gonna continue. Like we had.
You would want to, if you're a teacher, like you would want to have all the skills necessary, because eventually, and especially in San Antonio, like
exactly. And they don't grasp that, and it's like, no, well, why? And I'm like, because that's your demographics. This is where you're working. If you're going to be working here, then you need to know. And they expect the kids to learn English really quick. Okay, but are you making an effort to learn Spanish then? Like, do you expect them to learn it in one? I'm like, yeah, they're making their effort, but they expect miracles. It takes 6 years to fully develop a language, and they just got here 1 to 2 years ago. They're not going to be fluent. Oh, I heard them speaking English. Social English is not the same as academic English. It's a completely different story.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so how do you work with like reluctant teachers, or either of you?
Well, that's why when I ask you, like when I tell you I like to switch them over, sometimes I'll be specific and be like, I would rather them be with this teacher, because there are some teachers that I flat out would not want my kids to be in because they're rude and they're like condescending to my kids. So I was like, I'm not going to put my kids in there whenever they're like, and I know which teachers work because my kids tell me everything. Our kids talk a lot, and if you notice, like if you would look at the cameras, my kids are constantly coming in here. Miss, I need help with this. Miss,
yeah, I remember there was like 4 kids in here though.
Yeah, they're always coming in here. Hey, I need help with this, or this is going on. Can you help me with this?
But that's because you create an environment of like acceptance and welcoming where they might not. That goes back to like, oh, they're not doing the work. Well, they don't feel like they're
exactly. They don't feel like they're part of the classroom. So why am I going to be trying whenever
that's for sure. I agree with.
They're not. They isolate them, or they're like, okay, we'll go work with your IA, or they don't take the time to do the small group, and they might not respond, but they're able to understand if you're breaking it down, you're pointing, you're like making the effort. And the kids have their favorites. Like they love Stryker, they love Cooper. Cooper's not certified, which screws it over, but Cooper is great and very patient about breaking it down. It's like, and she's not even certified. There's people who have been teaching this for a long time, and they still won't make that effort to break it down and do like.
Well, breaking it down to the chunks is for any student a simplified skill.
Like every single one of the ESL strategies can be beneficial to everybody. Every single one of them. That's why it's not anything that's out of the norm. It's not anything that's not going to help every single student in the classroom.
Because when I was teaching, I just did it for everybody. I didn't say, "Oh, you get it and you don't because of this." Everyone got it. And if it helped you, it helped you. If it didn't, but everyone was. So there's no like, is there any like fix to reluctant teachers? Because
what do you mean?
Like, if there's a teacher that consistently not implementing any strategies, what is the solution?
They complain to my bosses that I'm not doing my job.
That's really
Yeah, that's what they do. But they already know, like, oh, we already know. Like, because they know the people who have been that constantly tell are the ones that like, no, they were like that since I was here. And I'm like, I'm good. I don't
we
care.
can't require them to like show proof or anything like that, right? Of student work.
Technically,
Sorry, I didn't
no,
mean
no,
that.
you're good. You're good. Technically, they're supposed to, just like any failing student, they're supposed to justify like or demonstrate, okay, so you know this is a beginner level EV student, what are you doing to accommodate them? But I haven't gotten that how do you say that authority yet, because I wanted to start that last year. Is, hey, you're not like this kid's failing.
Yeah.
Can you demonstrate what accommodations or what your strategies you're utilizing to help them be, grasp the concepts?
Because
I feel like that would greatly change my kid's grade.
oh, I know it will. Because in Northeast they require it.
Yeah, but they don't require it here. And it's not a matter, yeah, and that's not a matter.
I didn't know that either. I thought you had to show some proof but that makes sense because when we got senior failures last year,
the majority of them were EBs.
And then it was just that phone call home or talking points home.
When a lot of our parents, that's not how they communicate, and it's like, well, we already tried communicating with them. It was like, okay, but that still doesn't say what are you doing to help the student in the classroom. Just like with SPED kids, you have to, like, you can't fail a SPED kid without proof of all the accommodations that you're faithfully executing these accommodations, and they don't do that with ours.
And like the families are just trusting the teachers.
Yeah, because that's a cultural thing.
Yes,
like it's a cultural thing. The teachers know best. The teachers know best, and the teachers take advantage of the fact that they don't. And
reach out or because if you had a parent like that was on them they would have changed their okay.
And we have occasionally, and a lot of my parents contact me and they're like, okay, and I'll set up